Majority of childless adults younger than 50 cite that they just don't want to have kids. 44% of childless individuals 18 to 49 say it's unlikely they will ever have children. 44%, almost half. And 56% said they just don't want to have kids. If you have people who just don't want to have kids because it's cooler to have puppies that you wheel around in strollers, to go and do all your Instagram pictures of all your cool hiking places, and you don't want to have to share your life with a tiny human you're responsible for. If we're propagating chemical abortion drugs that kill human beings, our civilization will collapse. And now it's here. It's here in America. We are below replacement value. Pro-choice and pro-life Americans should agree that we generally need to create and promote the creation of new human beings.
These pro-life people that come to talk about child-free by choice women not having kids, I feel like they are not focusing on the right thing. Are you supposed to be worried about women that are choosing not to have kids in the society right now, in the economy right now, with the way things are going, with the way life is going? Are you supposed to be bothered about the ones that have decided not to have kids? Or you're supposed to be asking questions to the ones that are still deciding to have kids? The ones that, even though they don't have enough source of income, they are still getting pregnant. The ones that they are not ready yet, they are still getting pregnant. The ones that they know that having this child, they cannot take care of the child, they are still getting pregnant. Those are the ones you're supposed to be asking questions, not the ones that are choosing not to have children. What is your take on people that talk about this pro-life or pro-choice thing? I have just a reaction from a child free by choice woman, Teresa. So let me roll that clip for you all to watch to the end, and I'll be back to share my thoughts at the end of the video.
Yeah, we don't care. One more time for the cheap seats in the back. We don't care. The people who you should really be talking about now are the people that want to have kids, many of them desperately, but for whatever reason cannot. They haven't found a partner yet, and they can't afford or don't want to do it on their own. They have fertility issues, or just the realities of capitalism prevent them from being parents. Your fear tactics aren't working anymore. Just like the fear tactics trying to convince women to get married and be in relationships with men, those fear tactics aren't working anymore because we don't want to. And we don't care what happens to the world if we don't. We're tired. Women are tired. Because so many of us have realized that the survival of capitalism depends on our subjugation. And there are a lot of, second waiver, like socialist type feminists who understood this from jump. And I'm talking way back in the day, like Emma Goldman era people. They understood this from the beginning. Women are not interested in rescuing a system that requires our subjugation in order to survive. That kind of system does not deserve to survive. That kind of system should disappear. That kind of system should die. And it's really insulting pro-life lady. I don't know that person's name, but I've seen her face on all the pro-life videos. She's a pretty popular pro-life activist, I think. It's really insulting, lady, for you to come on the internet and say that people, and by people, she's talking about women because she's a pro-life activist, that women's reasons for not wanting children are frivolous. But even if you think those reasons are frivolous, do you want a frivolous person becoming a mother? But even the women who give those so-called selfish or frivolous reasons for not wanting children, when you dig down underneath those reasons, you find the truth, the real reason. Having children is not economically sustainable for most Americans. And the number of people that it's not economically sustainable for is rising by the day. The cost of childcare is astronomical. It costs as much to put a child in daycare. That costs as much as it costs to send a kid to Harvard or Yale. It's insane. And that's every year from birth on. But then conservative women like this will say, well, just stay home and you won't need childcare. But yeah, that makes us financially independent on a man. That is not economically sustainable either. That is very risky. So the choices are: have a child you can't afford and struggle in poverty or permanent lower middle class working poor status, possibly ending up on assistance of some kind, or surrender your entire life and your economic well-being and that of your children to the whims, desires, and productivity of one person. One person who has been conditioned their entire life that your only value is your service to them. Surrender your life and your well-being and that of your children to a person who does not see you as a human being. I guarantee you that if you dig past the Birkin bag dog selfie, whatever, young women on Instagram, beneath those I want my freedom reasons is that. But you don't do that, do you? Because conservative women like you never bother to speak to other women as though they're people. You see women as future mothers, all of them. Because you cannot conceptualize a world where people don't think like you. And you are so afraid of the world transitioning into something new, something you don't recognize, that your only option in your mind is just to go back. If you just go back to the way things were, it'll be easier and all the problems will be solved. No, because here's the secret about the way things were. They never were like that. This image we have of family life mid-century in the post-war era, post-World War II era, is a fiction. It is based off of Cold War propaganda. You are asking people to build and organize their lives based on a fantasy, a world that never existed. I get that you're scared. A lot of us are scared because the world is changing. Believe me, leftists, we're scared too. We're scared about climate change. We're scared about a lot of things. But what we're not scared of is the world transitioning to something new, because we know that that transition could mean something better. But because conservatives live, their lives are gripped by fear of the other, fear of the unknown, that they cannot imagine a world that is better, but is also a world they don't recognize. For them, if they don't recognize it, if they don't understand it, that means it's automatically bad and they want nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, left-leaning people are like, imagine a world where X, Y, Z. This would be so much better. Well, how would we work out this? Well, I don't know. Let's think about it and come up with a plan. Liberals, left-leaning people have the ability to dream in a way that conservatives don't. And it's very sad that they don't have that ability. But I'm telling you, lady, this is only going to get worse. The birth rate is going to keep dropping. It's going to keep dropping. So instead of railing against it, trying to curtail women's rights and force us into economic dependence on men and force us into motherhood, which is basically what motherhood does. It forces you into economic dependence on men or poverty. Like, those are the choices for most women, unless you have like a lot of economic resources. You have a 6-figure job, you have multiple businesses. The single mothers I know, all the single mothers I know are doing great, but they're doing great because they're professional women who had money of their own before they became mothers, and they became mothers very late in life. When they were settled and established, they already owned homes, they already had large chosen family communities, they had community support, they already had that before they had a child. Meanwhile, you want women to have kids when they're like 20, 25, before they've figured out who they are, before they've built up their finances, before they've built their community of support that they're going to need to mother in the way that they need to. So instead of trying to do all that, trying to force us, you should think about policies that support the world as it is rather than the world as it was, or the world as the way you believe it should be. Because this is the world. This is the present. This is the future. It's not going to change. It's not going to go back the way it was. We're not going back. So let's just all accept reality and plan our policies accordingly. I know you're not going to do that. This video really isn't for you. It's for sane people that might be watching this. So you're just going to keep shaming women, blaming women. You're just going to keep, restricting our rights further and further and further and further until we live in this wasteland where nobody in America wants to get pregnant because pregnancy is so dangerous with all these abortion restrictions. There's no hospitals nearby where you can give birth. And even if you can, it's incredibly expensive and incredibly dangerous because if something goes wrong, your OBGYN can't treat you the way you need to be treated in order to save your life because of all these restrictions that you supported. So if anyone's unaliving women or unaliving people or unaliving mothers or even unaliving babies, it's not pro-choice people. It's you.
I totally agree with every word she said in that video. Why don't you focus on people that want to have children, but they can't because they cannot afford it? Why are you concerned about the ones that don't want to have kids? In the comment section, a lot of people were talking, and Jen said, I'm paying over $30,000 this year to send my kids to preschool. And that only covers the school year. Summer camp will be more. I love being mom, but my kid is done with preschool in 2 months for a grand total of $81,000 since 2021. And people have the audacity to ask if I'm having another one. I have a hard time coming to terms with the fact that I'll be working for the rest of my life. The last thing I want to do is come home from work and take care of children. I would love to have a kid, but American healthcare doesn't support that reality. I also don't want to potential be a single mom. I've accepted that I won't have a child and I'm okay with that. Giving birth nowadays is very expensive. Getting pregnant alone, some people even go through IVF, and that is not cheap. Some people have to get so many supplements, so many drugs just for them to get pregnant. And when they eventually get pregnant, it is not cheap. The childbirth is not easy. If you go through CS, is money, right? Even natural birth. Also, after the child is delivered, you still need to still keep paying for so many things. A lot of people cannot afford it. A lot of people that want to have that child, most of them are not deciding to have another one, or they don't even want to have at all because they cannot afford to have children. So people blaming child by choice people that they are the ones making the birth rates to go low. Why not focus on the economy? But then these pro-life people, I feel like these pro-life people, most of them don't even really think about the situation. Their own is just bring a child to the world. What is your take on pro-life and pro-choice? Are you pro-life or you are pro-choice? Let us have this conversation in the comment section. I have a few videos to share with you all about pro-life and pro-choice. Let's watch this video together and I'll be back to share my thoughts at the end of the video.
I'm going to help you argue with pro-lifers. As a former pro-lifer myself, there are some things that they're going to listen to that is going to fall on deaf ears. Point 1, you need to focus on the fact that pro-lifers legitimately think abortion is murder. If you tell them that, oh, you just support, unborn babies until they're born, you're not going to help them with food and shelter, that doesn't matter because murder is murder. Like, it doesn't matter if they do that or not because they still think that murdering that child is worse than letting them struggle. And if you're going to talk about the life of the mother versus the life of the unborn child, you have to understand that statistics are really in their favor because most mothers, most pregnant people do well. They will give you statistics like, well, most people just aren't ready to be a mom or they just can't afford it. And even if some people die in the process of these laws rolling out, they think that overall you're saving more human lives because the unborn are now surviving by the millions. Even if you tell stories like, fetuses who don't have a brain and they're not going to, make it, they see that as kind of a sacrifice a mom can make and be like, it's in God's hands. Like, no physician should go in there and abort something if it's still alive. So that's also not going to work. But if they don't work in medicine, they don't understand the complications that carrying that fetus to term is going to create. So with all that said, you have to focus on the fetus's personhood. And I will post more about how you do that to come.
Being pro-choice does not mean that you personally would have an abortion. It means that you understand whatever your personal views are shouldn't affect what other people do with their bodies. I've seen a lot of people, especially in the last few weeks, saying things like, I'm pro-life for me, but I still don't think I should have any say in what other people do with their bodies. That means you're pro-choice. As someone who is pro-choice, I will fight adamantly for your right to not have an abortion if you do not want one. That's the whole point. People who are pro-choice are not trying to force anyone to do anything that they're not comfortable with. They're just saying you deserve the choice to do what you want with your body.
I get it. Abortion can be traumatizing. You can think about what you've done and it can haunt you forever, knowing that you could have brought a life into this world, especially if you don't want it or it came at the wrong time, and you can sometimes think about it and be like, oh, I think I did something wrong. It can be traumatizing. But then I don't get, sometimes I ask myself, what about people that were raped or by their father? We see videos of people that were raped by their father, their brother, someone very close to them, especially their family, and they got pregnant. Or you got raped on the road and you got pregnant as a young child. Are you going to tell the person to get abortion, or you want the daughter to carry her father's child? Or you want an 8-year-old child that was raped and got pregnant to give birth? Sometimes I ask myself, when people that say you just have to give it, or sometimes you're in a medication, there's some medications that you take that you're not supposed to get pregnant, and you got pregnant, and they tell you, oh, your child might come to this world without head, or might not come with nose, or your child will have a lot of defeats or something, and the doctors might even give you options like you can actually terminate it. Will you tell those ones not to? Or will you tell the one that is probably life and death situation? There's some pregnancy that they will tell you that you, you can make it if you continue carrying this child to long term. One of you have to die. Will you to tell the mother to continue with the pregnancy? These are some of the questions that come to my mind when it comes to abortion and people that try to make it look like it's all 100% bad. Anyways, I feel like if you know that you don't want to have children, but you keep having unprotected sex because you know that you can do your abortion anytime, any day, that is when I see that there's problem, right? You can easily go, if you know you don't want to have kids, take off your womb. You can just stop having sex. You can just, get birth control pills. You can get injection, IUD, a lot of prevention for you not to able to get pregnant because you have control over it at that point. If you have control over the fact that you can get pregnant or not to, why do you choose to still get pregnant and still decide to abort it? But the ones I don't have control over, the ones that were raped, the, the ones that, especially the ones that were raped by their father, what are they going to do? The young girl. I read an article. A young girl of 8 years old. She got married. Of course, there's some places in even some places in Africa they still do it, right? But this was in Africa. I think it was India. Got married to somebody like I think 5 times her age. She's like the third wife or something. He had sex with her, and she got pregnant. You or she died. Is that not wickedness? Is that not wickedness? I don't even know who to blame. Is that to blame the parents or the man? I don't even know who to get angry at because it's just so sad. Imagine that kind of young girl. She cannot make decision herself. She's still a baby. 8-year-old is still a baby to me. So I mean, 8-year-old got married to an elderly person, and now she's pregnant. You want her to 8 years old to carry a pregnancy. something that 30 years old, 40 years old are doing, they are, is 50-50. Now you want 80-year-olds to go through that stage of life just because you are pro-life. What is your take on pro-life and pro-choice? I feel like this is a personal matter, and we all have our decision to make. But then I just feel like sometimes you have to weigh some options and see which is which in some situation. Let me know your thoughts about this video down in the comment section, and thank you all so much for tuning in today's video. It's your favorite girl again, Mara Davids, and don't forget to like and share and subscribe and turn on the post notification bell to get notified once I upload another interesting video like this one. And I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.